Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I am your host, Rob, here in balmy Central Florida. It's Christmas time, and RDV from the Great Midwest and Easy E Eric Breen, also from somewhere in the Midwest, is joining me tonight to cover Holiday Affair with Robert Mitchum from 1949. Gentlemen, it's the holiday season here, and all I hope I get for Christmas is a giant pepperoni and cheese pizza with ham and pineapple on it, much to RDV's chagrin. And you know what?
I'm out. I'm out. You have your pineapple in your review by yourself.
It's an acid and a fat, and they go great together, sir. Yeah, and speaking of going great together for Christmas films, look, we're not going to be those guys to get in the argument of what is a Christmas film or not. This is a film set around Christmas time, and we reviewed this about 4 or 5 years ago here in the Extreme Movie Show. It's done fairly well. And I got to say, this movie did not do well when it came out, and upon a rewatch, gentlemen, I was trying to think of some different things to say, and all I'll say is this. Damn, I love watching Robert Mitchum work. We've covered recently some films. We'll be covering more of them too. But I have a bit of a different take that I'll go on this film, having to do with the Janet Leigh character, Connie, the widowed, a.k.a. single mom. That was convenient from World War II angle. So I'll bring a different perspective to it. RDV, upon another rewatch, I know you've seen this many times over your life. Anything new come to mind initially that just struck you that you want to touch upon real quick?
Watching Robert Mitchum, work a scene, and then we reviewed, was it Charade with Cary Grant, watching him, and then also Gregory Peck. Back then, those three leading men, man, every time these guys would enter a scene, they didn't have to do anything, and they pretty much would steal it. Robert Mitchum, he's just sitting there behind her, and he's just got a glass, the tea or whatever, or wine or scotch, whatever, and doesn't have to say much at all. Just the way he holds the glass, kind of stands there, kind of awkward a little bit. And
take my money.
Yeah, and you're not looking at her. You should be looking at Janet Leigh because she's smoking in this. She's a smoke show in this. But then you're more focused on his reaction. I mean, it's two guys who want this girl. She is a widower. Her husband died in the war, and one guy is pretty much poor. The other guy is well off. The one that is more suited to her, because back then you want to marry a guy who could provide for you. He was a guy who got fired for his job because he didn't report her or whatever, so I love it because not only do we get two guys vying for the same girl, we have little Gordon or little Timmy, who also, just being Timmy himself, tends to steal the movie scenes as well too, and then getting to see him bond with Robert Mitchum. And just overall, every scene in this movie, rewatching it, and it just makes you kind of like enjoy what cinema used to be.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because we've talked about the lack of positive family representation in films, and especially from the father perspective too. And Eric, I know this is one of your favorite movies too, and you're a big Robert Mitchum fan, but your take as far as something new on here, anything initially jumps to mind on a recent rewatch yourself?
I gotta be honest, I've seen this so many times now that it's just it's like, do I just recite it along with the movie?
But I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I know it's one of your favorites, and it's one of those things that holds up, I guess. But I was trying to deliberately find a different perspective, and I kept finding myself focusing on Janet Leigh's character, Connie, the widowed mom. And I got to tell you guys, I'm gonna be honest, and to be the downer here as far as this movie goes, because it was definitely prevalent. I hate these fucking movies where, again, single mom syndrome, conveniently husband died or whatever like that. She's young. And I think she is fine. RDB, I know she is very cute in here. She does the job well. She's natural. She's got chemistry with everybody. I just hate how they wrote this, because at the end of the day, she ends up with Robert Mitchum, of course, which we'll get into how that happens and everything too, as opposed to the convenient guy. So I'm looking at Carl. I'm looking at Carl, the lawyer guy who's a little older, and the safe bet and all that too. And I kind of got turned off, honestly, rewatching it recently, in the sense that Carl's not the nice guy, schlep, cuck that we would like to say in today's terms of RDV. He's a good guy, and he actually helps Robert Mitchum out. But Robert Mitchum, he's the guy that doesn't have a job. He doesn't, he's kind of a bum in a way. He's getting ready to go.
He lost his job because of her.
Exactly. And I just go, I hate these kind of it's either A or B with these guys. And Robert, I'm not seeing why you're interested in her.
Well,
I'm just not. The magic was lost a little bit upon another review for me.
Yeah,
because of the story, not because of the acting.
Yeah, when you look at these types of movies like this, it's basically like the whole point of this movie is she's still grieving for her husband. She hasn't been able to move on, and Robert Mitchum is the first one of the two guys to realize this, and kind of decides, I can't compete with a dead man. And she's afraid to move on, that her love will replace what she has with her deceased husband. The kid, obviously has realized that he doesn't like Carl. Carl's kind of a stiff, Robert is more because he deals with kids and all at the selling the trade set and all stuff. He's gone, and Robert is just a much nicer guy. He comes off more likable. Should she have gone with Wendell Corey? Well, it comes down to this whole movie it's like, does she go for love or comfort, and and being paid, being taken care of?
I would argue, guys, and this is where I kind of wanted to steer it a little bit, despite some of the things to it, because I think it's interesting because it's so prevalent there. And even though Jen, I think, does a great job acting in it, she's not a catch at all.
She's indecisive, and it kind of frustrates you. It even frustrates
Carl's with her for way too long. He's very proper. He's with her for 2 years. Should have dumped her ass. And you see nothing there. What reason is there for her to be a catch?
Carl was, I said, he was a bit of a stiff, kind of a yuppie. It's kind of like Ghostbusters when he runs into the guy who likes Sigourney Weaver. He's like, "What's with the stiff?" And he's basically he's a nice guy, but he's kind of a dweeb. Where she's kind of more attracted to the guy Robert Mitchum, who's more, like I said, he's not like in a position to provide for her, but he makes her laugh. He's great with her kid. And she's basically torn through the entire movie. So sometimes it makes these kind of movies make you not want to like the character. Like, you don't like Connie Ennis because, well, she's leading two guys on, and and the kid wants to train.
The thing about Timmy that I will say here is pretty interesting too. And Eric, I don't know what kind of perspective you have, being kind of old school, probably more so than I am, is that you can't fool kids, whether they've got the ability to express what's going on. You're right. Carl is not a bad guy. I don't think Timmy hates him, but he just doesn't care for me. He's just there, right?
Yeah.
But he immediately, is treated like, if you're like, the kid's 6 years old, I think she says 6 or 7 years old, right? So let's say 6 years old. So you can have a conversation with a 6-year-old. You might have it on the terms of a 6-year-old. But what the scene where he meets him and he's talking to him in his room and he's asking him, like, to throw the ball on the wall, and he shows him stuff. It's a man-to-man conversation. He treats him like a man, even though the man's 6 years old or whatever. And that's all Timmy needs, is somebody to treat him like the father that's not there. And it's just weird because there's this whole thing about, mommy and her, where I lost this the first time watching it, but on a repeat, it's definitely obvious. She's making Timmy calls him like the man of the house, calls him Mr. Ennis, but basically is like the replacement husband or whatever. And that's just kind of not cool in a way. And I didn't catch that before. That made it a bit darker to me.
So she's
darker in a sad sense, right? Because she's grieving.
Yeah, and Timmy's also, doesn't really show it, but Timmy's also kind of doesn't want a new father.
Exactly.
And he sees Corey or Carl Davis, the actor, Wendell Corey, is like, man, this guy's gonna come in. He's gonna replace my dad and stuff. So, and he, because Timmy's a little bit cold to Steve Mason at first too, but then he realizes, hey, he's like,
he treats me
the way yeah. Where Carl doesn't know how to talk to kids, so he comes off as hey, okay, you're insensitive, and I just don't want to deal with you. And said this Timmy is very pivotal in this whole entire movie. And that Gordon Gebert's still alive?
Wow.
Yeah, he is 84 years old still. He is the only person in this cast that's still alive. But I don't know. Let's hear from Eric. You watched just numerous of times. One of your favorite movies to watch every year. how could you describe this, or can you describe this movie in 5 words?
No.
Well, what is your
one?
Just one word. Okay.
No, it's no, I can't describe it in just 5 words. I found it because it was Mitchum. I thought it was fun, but there's obviously more to it than that.
Yeah.
In that, basically it's a story of a woman who's lost her husband, who has resigned herself to just basically, she's going through the motions of life in every respect other than raising her son. And the calling him Mr. Ennis and everything. I mean, that's kind of like a coping, kind of like a defense mechanism.
Yes.
And she's met a nice guy who treats her and her son well, and there you can see in the dishwashing scene, they truly like each other, and that's borne out as the movie progresses. But that seems to be all it is for her, because she's not ready to live yet.
She just doesn't have the taint.
Steve Mason is the fly introduced to the ointment, that you can tell by the way she interacts with him from the very beginning. Maybe not the first scene, but like when she's buying the oversized men's, whatever you called those things,
underwear.
I thought it might have had a fancier name, so it's like a onesie,
or whatever we would call it. Yeah. Well, it's the body
Under Armour,
and there's definitely a connection and a chemistry there, and he represents a threat to the status quo that she has set up for herself, because he makes her
feel alive,
and she doesn't know how to deal with that, so she doesn't deal with it particularly well. And again, the what made this movie likable for me was that Carl is a nice guy, Steve's a nice guy. They're two different kinds of people. I said Carl will give her a nice, safe, protected life.
Yep.
Steve might be a roller coaster, but Steve is alive. And I said where Carl is, he's
going through the motions too.
Well, no, he has his personality is fully formed. He is who he is.
Yeah.
There's no spontaneity left in him, because he is an attorney, approaching middle age, which in this time that was, and so I said it was just the difference between the two is the conflict that's introduced to Connie, with some humorous scenes along the way. And I said it's what you can actually, it wouldn't have been such a bad thing if Carl had won, because I said he's a good guy. So it's like usually in a lot of these kind of movies, one guy, like I said, you kept waiting for him to turn out to be like a shithead, or like where he like goes to backhand him or something like that.
Yeah,
and there's none of that with his character, and even gallantly stepping aside at the end to let her make the choice. And the way he says it, he lays it all out and goes, somewhere I'd like to think that there's some girl that might be in love with me, and that's it's like you even when he loses the girl, you feel for him. Yeah, and I think that's what this movie is better than it appears on the surface, I think, while at the same time being a nice little charming holiday movie.
Yeah, I think with her, one of the things that's striking is because this movie is 1949, so it's 75 plus years ago, is that the way society presented its norms in the social structure, Carl was by far the more stable pick. And again, I guess I'm coming down to why is she a catch? It's one thing being widowed, okay, that's fine. So she's making the best with what she can. It's understandable. She seems proper, so she doesn't come off as entitled or anything like that. Well, but if you're Carl, it's like you don't see where they have this connection. You're right, they seem to like each other, but I just look at it and go, boy, back then Carl must have seemed like the more proper choice, even though Mitchum's not a bad guy. He's not that kind of bad guy the way we think of him. So
So
I like that about the movie. It's just that, again, what endears her to make her the catch that these two guys could have it? The dude's a lawyer. I'm sure he's got plenty of opportunities due to his social structure and everything too, and the fact that he's a good guy and proper. And Mitchum, he's a good-looking guy, but he is a bit of a bum if you want to think about it. She gets him fired. He's got really nothing to do except a dream to go chase to California. Yet she's going to take this 2 years of whatever stable life and upend it just because she gets the tinglies for some dude that she's only known for a week. It's the fantasy part of that is very hard to throw away, and that's not why we watch these movies. We watch them to kind of get lost in them. But I couldn't help but notice going, boy, they make it really difficult for you to buy that with your head, as far as believing in the outcome, even though it's Robert Mitchum.
Well, Robert Mitchum, I want to point out that he's a war veteran. And when soon the attraction to build towards her even more is when he learns that she's a war widow. That's
a good point. They have something in common.
So he understands all the guys they lost, in a war. This guy met a guy he came across. Who knows? But his dream is basically to go build sailboats, go to California and go there. And it's just kind of a temporary job for him, so he can save up money to go. And he happens to run into her.
I don't necessarily think that. So you're talking about how quickly this all happened. But you think about, and you see it in tons of these older movies, people lived faster in those days because they didn't live as long.
Well, you're done. You're done by 50 years.
That last a week, and the guy's asking the dame to marry him. And a lot of people, they obviously a lot of people get married before they ever do it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's and plus for the sake of the movie, you had to do it relatively quickly. But I just think it just came down to I don't think you're supposed to think of her as a catch. She's a nice lady doing the best she can raising a son, and two men have fallen for her just 1-2 years before. And like I said, with the one, gives her the ones that she exists with, the other one makes her feel. And I think that's what's going to be the takeaways. Steve Mason makes Connie Ennis feel again when she was basically just going through the motions of life, albeit, with somebody and not alone.
I think they did a great job of portraying that today's thing, if you get a guy, he's usually the gay cast-off friend or whatever, or he's an idiot, or he's the dumb father sitting in the background. He's been dumbed down. So I appreciate how this movie's made both these guys to be realistic portrayals of them, because when they have the big dinner scene at the end with her, it's her husband's parents, right? So I guess her in-laws, right?
Yeah.
And then Robert Mitchum stands up, he's got that brass set, and he just basically says, hey, you guys give me a nice meal, blah blah blah. I think you should marry me. And he says it right there in front of Carl, and I'm like, I think I appreciate the character of Carl having to deal with what he's dealing with, because he's the one that's getting the biggest life change here, not Connie, because Connie's allegedly going to find happiness and was happy before. Carl's gotten jack shit for his efforts, and Steve's gonna get Connie. So I mean, I'm not going to say I feel sorry for Carl in that sense, because he decided to hang around her for 2 years when, it's probably true. They probably never consummated the relationship, especially by those terms back then, or at least that's what they would want you to believe. But it's like, I can't see a middle-aged man spending 2 years back then when he lived faster, Eric, to use your point against you in the sense to support mine, why he would even bother doing that, especially if he's not getting any action, and she's got a son. So it's just that they unfortunately, even though Carl does a great job with what he's given, it's still kind of like a shit sandwich in a way. And that's what makes it tough, is that I'm trying to find the happiness that all of them can have in here. You have the promise of it perhaps for Connie and Steve. Carl definitely doesn't get it. Timmy, okay, maybe he gets it too or whatever, but that's the dicey nature of these things. But compared to today's movies and all that, the way they have men in here, at least here they're strong men. I gotta say that.
Yeah, as Eric said, like this is I think we talked about this before. I'm not sure if Eric joined us for the one when we did this last time, but
yes, he did.
Robert Mitchum, who just was arrested for marijuana a year prior to this.
Yep.
So his popularity just blown up. So they RKO wanted part of this rights from this magazine writer, and for like $50,000 back in the day, and they just decided they wanted to capitalize on Mitchum's infamous, scandal, and because he's in the news, let's get him on here. And
Eric, you know who Howard Hughes is, right?
Yeah.
He's the RKO guy.
Yeah.
Who was he banging at that time? Besides a lot of other women.
Oh God, I
Janet
can't.
Leigh.
Oh, was he?
Yep.
I did not know that.
Did Robert get some on the side?
Is that the aviator guy? No.
Yeah.
Bring in the milk.
Yeah. Interesting character there. Yeah.
No, but yeah, so it's kind of funny. Like when you also learn more about it, it's like why this movie was made because Robert Mitchum got caught smoking marijuana.
Well, let me ask you guys this. You're right.
Yeah.
But this movie did not do well at the box office. It was a bit of a bomb. Why do you think that is? Especially for the time. It's a positive film.
Could be because it's controversial because the fact he got arrested for that. Maybe some people felt it was not very nice to support someone like that. It was kind of controversial. Other thing I think is that maybe it was going up against another movie. Oh, look at other movies that flopped. It's a Wonderful Life.
Yep, I was just going to bring that up actually.
That flopped, but it's a
people loved flopped back then.
Yeah, yeah. So like I said, this movie comes out in 1949. I'm trying to think what other movies were out in 49 that time that would be leaning against it or running against it, but yeah, I don't know. It's I don't think I can think is maybe it's controversial. So people didn't think it was right because this man was smoking the devil's lettuce. I don't know. Maybe that's maybe why, or it could just be poor marketing, or the cartel did not have enough money, or didn't feel like it needed the money. Because we have Robert Mitchum, that's enough, and then no one showed up. Or
you also have to remember at the time, these studios were movie factories.
Tons of movies.
You basically would go to work, punch your time clock, and then find out what movie you were working on. Right. Who knows how much competition there was at the time?
Yeah.
And like I said, it just who knows? Because to your point, It's a Wonderful Life bombed. So it's one of those, but here it is 76 years later. It's still, not only are we talking about it, it is shown a couple of times every December on Turner Classic without fail. It has survived.
I tell you, one of the things about this movie that I think is gold is, and I'm stating the obvious here, especially for like younger listeners or people in different cultures that why are they talking about older movies? Robert Mitchum to me is like God tier when it comes to acting as far as watchability. He's up there with Humphrey Bogart to me. If he's in it, I will watch it. And I probably haven't seen as many Mitchum films as I have Bogart. That's just how it's gone over the years. But I look at him and I go, look, I'm gonna be honest. I want to talk a minute about what I was joking about before when we reviewed it 4 or 5 years ago. I call it the SEAL scenes. They're scene stealers in a way. The SEALs of Central Park or whatever. He's sitting there with the live SEAL talking or whatever, and there's twice they're there now. And they do in movies what you don't see a lot today with CGI backgrounds and all this fake green screen stuff. And that's one, even though it's a inside piece or whatever, the way it's filmed, but they make it look like it's got snow and all that. But they do have a live SEAL. They have people constantly walking back and forth. They've got all the audio of trains going off and cars and people talking and walking. It feels busy and it's done well. And when you're watching the scene, I go, it's some of the best in terms of the cinematography, best in this movie, both the SEAL scenes, not just because of the SEAL, but because Mitchum, but those two scenes where he's in there talking to her first on their date and then when they have their resolution at the end, but then the third scene with Mitchum talking to the kid in his bedroom, talking about tossing the ball and, hey, when I was out here, I used to think this or that or whatever, and he's having a great conversation. You can't get better than that when it comes to acting and feeling like they're not rehearsing, like it's just natural. That's how good Mitchum is. And I don't know what it is, if it's his voice or what, but this is like Orson Welles as far as talent level, in my opinion. And that's one thing I wanted to ask you about, Eric, because you and I are big Orson Welles marks on RDV. You're not the biggest fan. What do you make of that? I
agree with you 100%. What what Mitchum made everything look completely effortless. You never felt like he was acting. He's just there. But then you watch and you go, wow, but you can't look away. And I think there's only a few guys that have pull that off. And I'd say Wells, Mitchum, Bogart, Grant, and Stewart. If they're in something, you want to watch it.
You bring up Cary Grant. Cary Grant was I Was a Male War Bride was also playing this year too. So maybe people were watching the Cary Grant movies.
Well, but that was, you also got to remember, television was in its absolute infancy. So people were still going to the movies. So one movie wasn't going to, it cost something. This just probably didn't resonate at the time.
Radio plays too were also a big thing.
Yes.
Not so much by 49, not nearly as much as they would have been like 10 years prior. But there was, but there was still just, well, even when I was young, in the like 70s, the newspapers used to have a movie section, and it looked like almost like a Chinese puzzle. There was so much, and that was nothing compared to what it had been 25 years prior. So there was probably an unbelievable amount of competition, and like I said, it may not have been successful at the time, but I promise you, a lot of movies that did better than this in 1949 are completely forgotten.
I was going to say, because the reason I bring up I Was a Male War Bride, because that was the number 3 movie in 1949. And you had a couple different ones. Yeah, stands at Iwo Jima, John Wayne movies. Number 1 was Jolson Sings the End with Larry Parks and Barbara Hale. Yeah. So there was a lot of competition.
Yeah, but I said today a blockbuster might get 85, 80, 90% of the movie going public for that week or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people don't go to the movies. In 1949, everybody
went,
because there wasn't that many. Like you didn't. The did not come equipped with much entertainment. I mean, you had the phonographs, the radio. Maybe if you're one of the few families that had a television at that time.
People went to clubs a lot too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's why. That's why. Nightclubs were huge. Movies were huge. The 8th place team in the American League, knowing that the Yankees were going to run away with it again, did fairly well with attendance because there's not a lot else to do. You had to go out for your entertainment. Well, I should say there was plenty to do, but you had to leave the house for it.
Yeah. And the other thing too is it's released during winter. Like I don't remember what date it says on that. I could look at Wikipedia and say when it was released. Okay, it was released in November 23rd, 1949, New York City. And then again in December 24th in the United States. So travel too. Remember traveling back and forth during winter. So if it's released again twice, second time it did a little bit better. I don't know, but I know up here when we get really bad storms, no one's really going to the theater because no one can really get travel. So, but then again, like I said, just because this movie bombed at the box office doesn't mean it's a bad movie. There's a lot of movies I enjoy that bombed. It's just that, like you said, certain movies that didn't hit with that crowd, but then a new generation comes out, all of a sudden they love that movie. So honestly, Robert Mitchum does carry this movie. I do love Gordon Gebert, I guess his name is. His Timmy and his relationship with him. Janet Leigh, I love whenever she's with Robert Mitchum, those scenes, especially in the department store. You can just see the chemistry from them, the way she looks at him and the way he looks at her. And I just feel bad for Carl. Carl is the guy I knew right away. It's like, he's the safe option, but here comes this other guy who's the wild card. He's the bad boy kind of a thing. That's kind of like actually make her want to do things
he was the Ralph Bellamy of this movie.
Yes. And then getting to see Harry Morgan as the judge was just kind of like this. What?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned him because that one scene He is so. You talk about stealing a scene.
Yeah.
Just the expression on his face, like when he's rubbing his temples. It's like, and it's so. I mean, by today's standards, it is so tame. But in 1949, when I said things were maybe a little more proper, it just seemed, it just like I said, it was great. I said that he made the most of his brief time on screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Mitchum, like Bogart, when I think of black and white movies, I immediately think of Bogart, right?
Yep.
Robert Mitchum's up there, and I think it's only because I haven't seen some of those other Norm movies that he's in, and he's been in a bunch that maybe aren't the biggest names or whatever. I know it's something, we go down a rabbit hole occasionally with an actor or a theme, and we go through it. So it's very stream of consciousness, right? We decide pretty much on a week-to-week basis in the moment what we're going to review with that, unless we have some suggestions from some of our listeners, right? But Mitchum, Mitchum and Bogart, look, I love Heston. I really, really do. But when I go old school on the short list, he's probably there. But Mitchum is just, I don't know, there's something about his attitude too I like as well, like where he's just like, I'm an actor, I show up, I read the lines, I do what the director tells me, then I shut up and that's it. There's an ease with the way he works that you don't go, oh my God, I've got to find my motivation for why I'm going to say this the certain way to this lady and write a 200-page backstory on what happened to her husband in World War II and all that. So when he calls and says action on my scene, I can somehow get into character or any of these other method actor types that just like dress up in something and then don't talk to anybody on set, because if they do, it'll break the psychic mood that they're in and all that. I think sometimes actors have gone a little bit too far for us to really believe them, and they're overacting in a way that's not believable. And that's the beauty of it. If you're somebody like a Mitchum or Bogart, and you have a natural presence, the smart thing, like Eric was saying earlier about the factory model, is you're going to take, we're going to put this guy in here because that's what he can do and that's what this movie needs. Not just a name, but his ability. And Mitchum, he is just so good at dialogue where, some actors today, like I look at Brad Pitt, I kind of like Brad Pitt. I don't think he's horrible.
90s
man, there's sometimes when he's talking, I'm like, you're horrible, bro. You can't act. You're just pretty handsome. Seriously.
90s Brad Pitt is peak Brad Pitt.
You might one of Robert Mitchum's biographies, the title is Baby I Don't Care. And that's kind of like if you could describe him in one sentence, it was kind of like, because he just, like I said, just made it look easy. And if you watch a movie like this, then go watch Night of the Hunter or the original Cape Fear and see, because for someone who is Robert Mitchum and everything, he had incredible range, because those two roles, he is terrifying. Without
Night of the Hunter is probably one of the best movies of all time. It's that good. And we've reviewed that. It's been a while, but it's tremendous. If you guys have not seen that listing right now, I honestly, between Holiday and Fair and Night of the Hunter, it's a no-brainer. Go see Night of the Hunter first. This is good. This is nice.
Yeah.
But Night of the Hunter, there's something about Mitchum that you're like, fuck, this guy's good. So I'm serious.
Mitchum was going up against Bob Hope this weekend in the box office. For that was The Great Lover was the other one. He had Bob Hope in there, and Rhonda Fleming and Roland Young, his comedy film. And just it was just where this was billed. RKO did put out a lot of trailers and stuff, aiming that this is a holiday themed film and has Christmas in it. So they really emphasize on that, even though it's not a Christmas movie, but it's a movie you can watch during Christmas, because you get that nostalgia when you see the Christmas, and then they eventually go into like around New Year's towards the end for briefly.
Remember when train sets were a thing?
I had my dad's train set upstairs.
Yeah.
Yep. Pretty sure it's the one you can actually put like the water in it,
oil or the smoke.
It steams. Comes out. Yeah. Really expensive one.
Look, for me, trying to take a different perspective on this movie tonight, as opposed to when we reviewed it 4 or 5 years ago. I think it's a legitimate one. It doesn't mean I'm shitting on the film here. Yep. I do want to credit the film not only for some of the marvelous acting that's in here, and Janet does a great job. I think she has probably the toughest position to play, because one small stray from the way she could come across, could make you instantly dislike her. And I'm borderline just because of the way the character is in her situation. But that being said, I do appreciate that what this movie really does try to do is find out what's the best possible family situation. You could be cynical, really hardcore, and go, well, Carl would provide that because he's a man of means and he's established and he's mature enough in his ways where he's going to provide that stability and security, which, you know, goes with the argument that that's what women want when they get older, especially if they have trauma like she's had. But obviously she goes with what people want to call love, and that's that empowering female notion of, well, you know, if it feels good, it must be good, therefore I'll go do it, despite the fact I'm single and have a kid. You don't even notice that in here. But at least, you get really, really triggered by it, but it's always been there in film. At least here, there's two very powerful men in here that aren't just schlubs. He's not some biker dude bro kind of loser that we'd say, oh, he's a bad guy, he's not a good fit. And Carl's not the cluck kind of guy. Like I said at the beginning, we'd be like, you're just a bitch, get out of the picture or whatever. Yeah, that's the strength of this movie, is the fact that they do have two guys. It's not a good guy and a bad guy. It's two different kind of guys, Eric, like you had mentioned, and where she needs to go. And Robert Mitchum just, so how are you going to bet against Robert Mitchum? Honestly, you can't.
So this movie was filmed in 1949 July to September, and then released in December, like November and December. That's crazy. What? I don't have to wait 5 years for a movie to come out? Yeah, is how he said, to Breen's credit, they just pumped and dumped a whole bunch of movies out back at that time. And so I'm reading up, this is according to Grokpedia, so I don't know what that is, but I found the links up. They're saying how with or last minute changes and significant contract disputes during the assembly, that they got RKO contracted players and stock company members. And then the process involved multiple loan arrangements and studio preferences for familiar talents involving from initial rumors of bigger names like Cary Grant and James Stewart before settling with the lineup that fit RKO's budget and tone. Can you imagine if you had Cary Grant in this instead of Mitchum or Jimmy Stewart? I think it would change the whole entire movie.
I do too. I
like Shop Around the Corner, and I like how Jimmy Stewart's performance, but I don't know if Jimmy Stewart's performance, if him replacing Robert Mitchum, would have changed it. If you had Jimmy Stewart as Carl, maybe that would.
I know, right?
Wow.
If this were a massive budget movie and they could say, putting the Philadelphia story team back together, because that's the only time that Cary Grant and James Stewart were in a movie together.
Yep.
But I said I think this worked out better because even though Mitchum went on to be a huge star, he wasn't in 1949.
No,
he was well known. I mean, he'd actually already gotten his only Academy Award nomination that he ever got, which I think is criminal, but that's neither here nor there.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, he did from a war movie he made in 1944, I think. I can't remember the title. But, yeah, I kind of like it better with people you recognize, but not people you've seen a million times.
Yes.
Especially usually if you saw Wendell Corey, he was that, gangster or thug or just, ne'er-do-well. This was not. No, I mean he
was he.
He was the bad guy or a bad guy, way more than he was a good guy.
Really?
Yeah. He was just kind of. I said but never a leading man.
Oh, he's in Rawhide.
But yeah, that's what I liked about this was he play a little bit against type. Actually, so did Mitchum.
Corey's ancestors included John Adams and John Quincy Adams.
I'll be darned. Did not know that.
Dang. Well, I mean, it's possible, yeah, because you think about back then when we're still about the country's over. Was it we just got 200? Or we're over 300, or no, we're not 300 yet. How many years? It's 1776, or
we're our 250th next year.
Yeah, so it's
going to be the biggest spectacle of all time in the world for the youngest country ever.
Yeah, we're gonna have sharks with freaking laser beams on their heads and rockets.
It's going to be huge.
Penguins,
bigly.
Yes.
Actually, it is going to be pretty badass because I think we have the Olympics as well.
Yes. And we're gonna have pyrotechnics and all that stuff. But anyway, yeah. So Robert Mitchum coming into this, you said, like, not being a household name, as where Jimmy Stewart, Cary Grant, Ronald Reagan even had a movie out that year too. John Wayne. So yeah, putting Mitchum in there, and I said the way Mitchum holds a glass, he shakes a little bit, kind of reminds me of Gregory Peck would do, or Cary Grant in some scenes. The way they hold it, and they shake it a little bit, and then they just use it as a prop. I love it. And Mitchum comes up as the everyday kind of guy who's, and he happens to find a girl, but the problem is the girl is betrothed or engaged to another guy, and at this point, this is also a guy, he doesn't care that she has a kid. Nowadays, it's like, oh my gosh, she has a kid, I can't date her, she has baggage. In a lot of movies or shows. So unless it's Hallmark. But yeah, so I like this. He's like, he didn't mind like the 6-year-old kid because he got along with the kid. Now, if the kid had been a brat,
I was gonna say if he was a little shithead,
yeah, it's like then it would turn it into like a movie.
Don't touch me, mister. Get out of my room.
They would turn the
That
movie.
would have changed the movie.
Listen here, you little shit. I'm gonna date your mom. You're gonna be heavy. Okay.
That's why if all of y'all during this holiday season have not seen, I think it's from 2012 or 14, don't read about it. Watch the very first movie out of the two called Orphan. It's absolutely tremendous. That's a great holiday movie.
Orphan. It sounds like a horror movie.
It's what I would call a family drama.
with elves?
No, that would be Elves with Dan Haggerty, aka the Grizzly Mountain guy.
Yes.
But that's another thing that we actually did review here too. Yeah, here's my final thoughts, guys. Look, this is a really good movie. I don't consider it a Christmas movie in any way, shape, or form. It very delicately balances some of the stuff that could piss you off. Like I mentioned, trying to take a different view on it here, but just the sheer acting of it, I think, is phenomenal. I think the two strong men in there. Janet does a great job. A lot of people say she's not a great actress. I've heard that her entire career ever since I was a kid when I first saw Psycho and said, okay, they killed her off halfway through. What happens now? Because that's just what Hitchcock did. That was different at the time. And so it's not that traditional, necessarily 3-act kind of written performance. And I remember her in The Fog and other things too. She's got Jamie Lee Curtis, I think, with Tony Curtis, so she's got a legacy. She's been around. I think she's fine. I've got no issues with her. I think she's okay. Timmy, as a kid, does a good job of being excitable and energetic without being annoying, because a lot of kids are annoying. So I give this movie a lot of credit, because any one of those areas, if it was not good or strong, then it really, I think, would pull everything down here. So I got to give him a lot of credit for it. And I know, Eric, you talked about Harry Morgan's scene, how he's a good scene stealer and he's a great actor. And that, Eric, that's one of the things that RDV and I've come to appreciate with some of these older films, is that even when we talked about, say, Touch of Evil recently, a lot of the side characters in their own right were still very strong actors, even if they were only there for a few scenes. And that's something that we don't necessarily see today. But I think it's a fine film. It's definitely one worth watching around the holidays. No pun intended. It's, they definitely want to make it Christmas themed, but I like it. I think it's solid. Anything with Mitchum's worth watching. This is no exception.
My final thoughts is if she would have ended up with Carl Davis, Timmy would have grown up spoiled. He would, where Robert Mitchum tells you, like, hey, there's more than just, the train set to life. It's, family, being with your mom, loved ones,
I think Carl would have been a disciplinarian, though, RDV. I don't know.
You think Carl would just beat the crap out of him and do alcoholic and just smoke cigarettes?
Carl would have said, Connie, get my belt.
Yeah. It would have been different. Because he said, like, Robert Mitchum comes in and is like, it's like, Timmy, you don't need the train. You're just saying that because you're a homeless guy. You can't afford it.
Final thoughts, Eric?
Okay. One thing, Carl, there is that scene where he asks Connie if she wants him to be Timmy's father or just the man of the house. Which I thought I thought that scene was very well done.
Yep, I agree.
And I have to disagree with you about Timmy. I thought he was annoying, obnoxious, and I've come to appreciate the character more with each watch because at the end when he kind of grows up a little bit beyond his years in the New Year's Eve scene where he goes, and she says, well, I'll have you, and he goes, oh, but I'll be soon I'll be getting married and moving away. And and I think it's a testament. This kid was a good little actor.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I didn't see so much a little kid trying to act. I saw a little kid. And you can definitely see you watch enough of these old movies, just movies in general. When you get kids that young, and he had a lot of lines. So for him to, he did a good job. So that should be at least pointed out, because you do see a lot of kids that can't act a lick in these things, and he could. And again, just like I said, this is something it's a nice little hour and a half, break from, whatever it is that's going on in your life. I watch it once a year. This is about year 7 or 8 now, maybe more, but yeah, it's just, you could do worse. I enjoy this immensely. And so
a lot of people, the reason they were going to go with Johnny Wright, but the last minute, like days before they started filming, they decided to change it and got with Gebert, because his natural reaction report with the adults, he was much more professional, more and stuff, and he wasn't he's better. And in the screen tests, a lot of people just liked him because he had that innocent, kind of like precious charm to him. And all you're like in the movie is like, where'd that go? No, but so I said, I like this movie, and I do recommend this to everybody. If you've never seen this movie, go check it out. I believe it's on Tubi right now. If not, you should be able to pick it up through Amazon. You'll probably buy a physical print, maybe, or rent it.
You can rent it from Amazon currently.
Yeah, because I have the movie, so but my copy's old. But this movie didn't hit the home media until 1986 with the VHS and stuff. So,
what's coming up Tuesday, sir?
Tuesday, Landman season 2 episode, I believe we're on 4 now.
4.
Yes. We're gonna have Sam Elliott finally is gonna appear again in the show. We're gonna have the funeral probably, I'm guessing. And some more Andy Garcia.
And hopefully we'll have dinner.
Yes.
If you watch the show, guys, ladies and gentlemen, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Landman's a very good show. I think it's by far his best. Been enjoying reviewing that with RDV, so I'm looking forward to that on Tuesday night, season 2, episode 4. And if you have anything that you'd like us to consider, drop us a line. Appreciate everybody showing up, retweeting us out, growing our audience, listening to some of the old archives. RDV spent a lot of time going back and reorganizing some stuff, put some new pictures here and there, and put some playlists together, whether they're in podcast form or older stuff there too. And we are curating through some of the older stuff, like this movie here, that we just said, you know what, got to do some Mitchum. Have we done this film? Yeah, but it's been so long. Let's redo it. And I like it. So if you see anything in our catalog you'd like to revisit, please let us know there too. And I'd like to thank Eric for showing up as well tonight.
May I offer one bit of advice? If Angela Norris invites you to dinner, in a drive-through on the way.
Yeah. I was gonna say, you brought up Timmy. How Timmy was annoying real quickly, and
Timmy.
The first thing popped in my mind is like, "Hey Timmy, have you met Tommy Udo? Let's go for a ride."
Oh, this is what happens when Timmy gets out of the well.
Yeah.
You know what? I want to see her and whatever the lawyer chick is, the hot-headed one that was squatting in this episode. I don't know. Everybody wins.
Yes.
Because I got money in the bank on her. We know what Angela Norris is, but the other one's intriguing to me right now because she's vicious. She's everything I would pay money for in a lawyer. I'm dead serious, bro. there's something about her where I think she's coping, whatever putting on this front. They're going to address that at some point. They have to, because she's too good to ignore. Whereas Ellie Lottery does such a great job of being the MILF, the whatever you want to call it. She's perfect in that role. I swear to God. And that's not easy to do that without just being considered a sex
best scene of the whole entire episode is where she's like, "Hey, baby, look at this tub. We can have a lot of sex tonight." And it's like, "Oh, hey, Connie." Or Cammy. Yeah.
Yeah, because the young one needs a stiff one, if you know what I'm saying. She hasn't gotten some of that cowboy D, and when she gets rocked a little bit too, she might turn into a Connie Ennis. Well, I'm just saying, she's all work and no play, and that she's going to have to lighten up here. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
I'll just say this real quickly, on this, but I don't think Ainsley's going to have a big role in this season as she did the fire season.
That may be true,
which is okay, because while she's doing something behind the scenes we don't know about, it leaves it for the next season to focus on that too.
That's not okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you know what? You can go back every single filthy minute of season 1 twice. But no.
Less is not more, RDV. It can't be. More is more. I want more.
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this thing. Good night now.
Good night.
Can I get a